I'm super excited to have this guest. Not only is he a I believe maybe even 3 or 4 time world champion. We'll have to ask him. He is a 2012 silver medalist at the Olympics, from the Olympics, I think. I don't know which one you say. But either way, he went there and got a silver medal in the sport of BMX racing, dominated BMX racing for the better part of a decade. Most recently, we have Mr. Sam Willoughby.
This is the Gold Medal Mindset, where we bring you all things winning in business, sport, and life. I'm Dr. Jason Richardson, pro BMX world champion and Pan Am Games gold medalist. Now I'm a professional speaker, author, and winning mindset coach. Thanks for joining in. Get ready to mine for gold as we challenge your perception to change your results.
Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. Did I get that medal count right? I know you won, was it 13 and 14, and I think you won a junior world championships?
I won it in 12 and 14 in elite, and then I won both my years of the junior and a time trial, if you count that, in 2014.
But did they give you a rainbow jersey for it?
They did.
Then it counts. So anytime. So for those that are not in the cycling industry, if you win the world championships and receive the coveted rainbow jersey, or anytime you see somebody in the Tour de France or a mountain bike race or a BMX race and they have rainbow colors on their collar or their sleeve cuff, then they are a world champion. So that is a very big deal, and not very many people get to experience that once, but I think we counted off 4 or 5 maybe?
Yeah, I guess, 5 with the juniors. So
I guess. I love it how it's like, I guess. I think it's 5. It's like, Snoop Dogg has a song and the lyrics are I think I own a black Beamer. That's one of his lyrics. It's like, I think I own one, but that's just how it is, because that's how we roll. It's that real. And then London, a silver, 2012.
Silver. Yep.
Now, let's back up a bit, though, because how old are you now, 25?
I am, I'll be 26 in August. So.
Oh, when? August when?
15th.
Oh, mate. I'm August 19th.
Leo?
Leo.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're a rare breed.
No wonder.
We were just talking about this with someone else in Salt Lake, because Carnes is a Leo and a few others. So, yep.
Yeah, there's a few of us. There's a Bill Clinton.
Yep.
Leo. Miles Rockwell, mountain bike past world champion.
Yep.
Leo. Same. Let's see. So those are the somewhat famous people. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I think Bill Clinton's the most infamous and famous Leo we might have right now. So, but let's back up, because you're only in your mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
But you moved to the United States when from Australia?
I moved here. I was 17. It was the end of 2008. And then I came over for about 3 months, and then I went home back to Australia over Christmas, and then I was back at the beginning of 2009. And I've pretty much been here full time since then. The first year, I would say, I was traveling around on people's couches and kind of just trying to make my way over here. And then in beginning of 2010, I got my first little apartment in San Diego in the famous city of City Heights. And
that's a little hood, isn't it? Kind of hood like.
It is. It's a special area. Yep. I didn't have. I mean, I was just on a standard little work visa, and I wasn't even a work visa at the time. I was on a tourist visa. I didn't really have income or anything yet, so I had no social security, and so obviously no one wanted to rent to a 17-year-old kid from Australia. So I found this little apartment in City Heights, and the guy was kind enough to, he called my parents and asked if what I was all about, kind of thing, and he was kind enough to give me a month-to-month deal, and I ended up living there for 2 years, and that was kind of where I got my start.
You were a great roommate. You were a great tenant, because you were traveling all the time. You were gone, so you just paid. That was really just a place to like wash clothes and keep bike parts, and change out.
It was really just a base to store stuff. I was on, obviously, as you know, on the road a lot, and But it's good memories. I mean, I often, every time I have visitors from Australia, friends, I always take them over there and show them the little alleyway I had to park in, and I used to have to collect my quarters to use the communal laundry and all these little things. So, but it definitely made me grow up fast and put my feet on the ground pretty quick.
That's pretty good. I didn't move from Australia, but after my first year of college in San Diego, I went to University of San Diego.
Yep.
I could either go home back to Vegas and work construction in the heat,
Yep.
or or I could try my effort at racing pro BMX, like
Yep.
really racing. And
Yep.
so I've talked my dad into buying me a couple plane tickets to a couple races. And my buddy lived in it. He lived in this small studio, and in the studio, so the studio was above a garage, and in that studio was a crawl space with exposed insulation and beams and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
I put a futon mattress in there and roped up and rope. So I hung the rope that hung my clothes, and I got these bins for my underwear and socks. Didn't want my underwear and
Yep.
socks on the insulation, and that's where I spent my summer. And then every
Uh,
race after that, so I made money, went to the next race, and I lived in an attic crawl space, if you will,
that's
for
cool.
that summer.
Yep.
So that's like the story, man. That's how it
Yeah.
begins. That's good. That's good. Meager beginnings, but I was at least I was 19 and
19.
already,
Same thing.
so people kind of expect an 18-year-old to go to school and move out of mom and dad's house, but 17, not only did you leave, the house, but you left the country. It's not like you could just drive home for Christmas. I mean, so
No.
what was that conversation like with your parents when they, "Hey mom, I think I'm gonna move to the USA and race pro," even though
Yeah, well, it started. I mean, that was always kind of a dream as a kid and something I talked about all the time. And that in 2008, when I was no, I was 16, 17, I went to China and won the Junior Elite Worlds. And after that, it was all about I just wanted to get to America, get to America. And mum and dad were kind of like, well, save your money, and if you get enough money, you can maybe go over at the end of the year and race the grands. And so obviously saved up. I went and worked at home with my parents, or my dad and my brother, in construction at home. So I got some little side jobs with different people in their industry and saved up enough cash, and then kind of mum and dad promised, so they had to let me go, kind of thing, and bought a
oh
ticket. Bought a ticket, and off I went. And kind of on the rules that I had everything organized before I went, as far as the places to stay, and they were always going to support me. It wasn't like they were just kind of wiping their hands of me and sending me
I
across the
get it.
world.
I get it. It's still. I mean, that's not normal, right? In the '80s, early '90s, sure, parenting was a bit looser,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Um, Yeah, I mean it was, like I said, I had places to stay. They knew I was going to be sort of with good families, and I don't know if they thought it would escalate as quickly as it did, in the fact that I went there for what was meant to be a 3-month trip, and we're almost 10 years in now. But so it moved a little quicker than I think. Well, especially Mum thought it would have at first.
it moves super fast. Cause let's see, '08. So I was finishing up. Like that was my
Yeah,
last year. I don't think maybe I really don't think we raced each other.
I
Um,
think we raced each other at that. I think it was the Disney Cup that year. You were riding for that Vegas team.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was what. Yeah, I did. We did. I made the main, but I don't even know what I got. And I remember that
Yeah,
I made the main. I was like, oh, now I can't race Vet Pro because I have to wait another year to race Vet Pro. It pushed that back. But anyways, so you were coming in. I was going out, but I remember that when you were coming in, there was a race in Denmark, there was a race in Madrid, there was a race, just traveling the world. I mean, because you were racing. You raced junior at the World Championships, but you were racing elite
hmm
during race, and you were competitive right from jump. So, what was it like when you had actually moved here to the U.S. and you kind of signed up for those races?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the first weekend was Lancaster in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
and that was right after the Beijing Olympics, so it was missing a few guys. But and I'm basically, I mean, I got straight up got my ass handed to me, and but
Welcome to
it
the
was,
club. Welcome to the
yeah,
club. You're in now.
yep. It was, yeah, welcome to America pretty much right off the bat. I remember I read the moto sheets wrong. I raced the wrong moto because I read them down instead of across, and then I had to go straight back up to staging and jump right back in the moto I was meant to be in, and made all sorts of mistakes. But
Rookie.
and yeah, it was a big steep learning curve, I would say. But after Lancaster and then the Disney Cup, kind of getting my ass kicked, I was down a bit, but still excited for the challenge and kept pushing forward, and then it was the Grands sort of in November, so about 2 months after I'd been in America, that I guess I kind of established myself a bit. I won the ROC race and then ended up I think third or fourth at the Grands that
Yeah,
weekend.
and that's a hard race to even make the final, let alone get top three at that
Hmm.
race, and be that young. So actually, we have quite a bit in common because I told you about those 2 plane tickets my dad bought me.
Yep.
So the first weekend I got my ass handed to me too. So if it wasn't for the second weekend, I believe it was in Illinois, Rockford, that I was
Yep.
able to scrape some pennies together with my race earnings and keep paying it forward. But here's what I've noticed about you, just watching,
Yep.
right? Um, and I think it was probably like within the last 5 or 6 years since I've been working with a lot of riders. But what my favorite pictures of you on the podium, and it's not because I'm hating on you, it really isn't. But I loved pictures of you on the podium when you were second or third because you look so salty.
Yep. Yep.
Like I'm smiling only because it's the professional thing to do, but deep
Because I
down
got
I'm
to.
super angry. So 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 tell me about that. Tell me about, because I always talk about a responsibility to what you want, right? So
Hmm.
and so the reason why I like those pictures is because you obviously have a high standard, which is like first place. And let's face
Hmm.
it, even at a pro level, a lot of guys are just there, like they just want to make the main, they just want to make the final, they just want to keep their sponsor, whatever you want to call it. Their standards are not as clear or as high.
Yep.
Fair?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So clearly, yeah. So where did that come from? I mean, right? Because you're already in the U.S., you're already sponsored, you're already quote unquote living the dream.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm going to go a little deeper. Why wasn't it good enough for you to get anything but first?
I think looking back at it now is that it was always, I kept to myself quite a bit when I was racing, and kept in my own little bubble and didn't expose myself to what was being said or done or anything like that a lot. So I built up this, in a way, I just built up this, I would say, expectation of, because I didn't hear any of the outside noise. All I heard was, the things in my own head and what I felt I was capable of, and those standards were pretty high every weekend. So I guess I just had an expectation that of where I felt I for the work I was putting in I wanted to be, and it wasn't a disrespect on the competition or anything like that. It was just kind of a standard that I felt that I needed to meet every weekend, and I and probably one of my biggest regrets in a way from my racing is probably that I didn't sit back and smell the roses a little bit enough. Um, but in saying that, that mentality is what took me to the top so quick as well. So yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. It's one of those things that you can. My biggest strength ended up at times probably being my biggest weakness. But yeah, I don't know. It was just sometimes it wasn't even the position that made me mad. It was something. It was the way that I went about it. Whether it
Mm-hmm.
was it was I didn't stick to my own plan. There was a process that I wanted to achieve that I didn't achieve. That therefore I felt is the reason why I didn't win. That yeah, there was many things like that. But I'm just a super competitive person and kind of wear my heart on my sleeve a bit, and just had a high expectation of myself week in week out, I guess.
Jeez. Was it fun?
It was no,
Okay,
it
good,
really
good.
was.
I
And
hope so.
even those times when you might have seen those pictures and you think, oh, well, what's he mad about, kind of thing. It was That's what I enjoyed the most, was that I loved that challenge of showing up every week. And I only had this conversation with Maris last weekend in Salt Lake, and he was kind of like, how did you want to just show up and race every week? Like, didn't you get sick of it? And I think for me, it was I never thought about tracks. I never thought about what race it was, where it was. It was the challenge of showing up and putting another win on the board, the challenge of showing up and executing what you'd worked on, and that was far greater. That was a far greater challenge than just winning the race. It was more challenging to show up and show 100% of what you might have seen in training the week before, or those things, I guess.
So what I'm hearing, and that's interesting that you talked to Maris. I want to talk about Maris a bit with you, but and he's been on the show as well. Who's a difficult interview because he doesn't seem to want to answer questions, even though he agrees to be on the show. But anyways,
No, listen to that one. That's good.
Oh, cool. But yeah. But what I'm hearing from you is that it was obviously you wanted to win, but it was more than that. It was really about doing what you were capable of, right? It wasn't about other people, and it was also about figuring it out. So this is what I want to talk about with Maris, because Maris is what I like about Maris Stromberg. He's two-time Olympic gold medalist, for those who don't know, in the sport of BMX. He is he's a pretty I don't want to say sensitive guy, but he's a pretty, the way he wins is very not that he's not intense, but it's kind of like nonchalant a bit.
Yeah.
But the one thing about him is if he's not feeling it, he just pulls the plug. Like there's no like I shouldn't say I'm not gonna push through, but if he's not feeling it, like he has no qualms about just living the fight another day, letting it go. Whereas you want you want to figure it out. Like you'll go to bed angry and just like make yourself do it the next day. So that is what I think is cool about the both of you. But if I'm not mistaken, I feel like you and Maris, or he might have helped you out a bit when you came here to the U.S.
For sure, he was that. I mean, he just won Beijing when I moved over here, and then he came over here pretty much around the same time, and so he was at the top of the sport, and it was just like a rabbit out in front of me that I wanted to chase, and Maris on paper had everything, physical, physique, skill, everything. So that was kind of like a model athlete that you chased, and so I just basically ran on will, I guess, and put my head down and just tried to do everything as best I can, and that was kind of the rabbit that I chased, and so that I guess spurred me along to always look for more, because I had to find more and more and more to be competitive with him.
Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. This is one of my favorite things about sport and competition, is that a lot of people don't know, is the not only just that we're in a lifestyle sport, but the camaraderie amongst a lot of athletes, a lot of like for instance the NBA Finals. Say what you want about Durant, say what you want about Curry, say what you want about LeBron, but a lot of these professional athletes, when they go to a city to play another team, they're having dinner with some of their buddies from the other team after the game, which is really cool, because they might have played each other in college, they might have played with each other in college, or at the All-American this or that, or this camp or that camp, and so it's really, meanwhile the fans are like fighting over,
right,
he went to the wrong team and why did he switch bikes and da 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 da. It's like they're just doing their job, which is to play ball or go race a bike, or they're trying to get by like the next guy, the accountant. So I think it's cool that Maris, essentially like gave you couch space at his place, and then you guys are in the Olympic final, 4 years later in London, 1 and 2, and then racing for U.S. national titles, head to head.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's the thing with Maris. He's one of those guys you really can't. You can't hate him.
No,
he's just a good guy, and he, I guess he all the way along was just he was just kind of a good example for me to look at in all areas, and and yeah, kind of just spurred me along to want to be better. But um, I remember a funny story about that kind of coming up in America and hanging out with him a bit was I was sort of looking for a bit of a place to stay. I was kind of surfing around on people's couches, and that was right around time Maris was getting his first house, I think, um, and he was kind of like, "Oh yeah, you could probably rent a room from me," and all right, cool. Um, and then he called me like a few months later or a few weeks later and was like, I spoke to coach and he said no because you're probably going to be one of my competitors here in a couple of years. So I don't know if Maris remembers that, but it was
That's good. So
that
at
was
some
pretty
point he
fun.
had to pull the plug. He had expectations and standards too.
Yeah, but I remember hearing that kind of like, oh, that sucks. I have a place to live, but I appreciate that he thinks that.
Right. So speaking of the couch store, we can't let this go not talked about. So I believe your fiance was part. you
Mhm.
stayed at her family's house for quite some time as part of the couch tour.
Yeah, so um, so Elise is from Minnesota, and when I moved over here, that was one of the couches that I went to surf on. And yeah, she was, I don't know how she said it to her parents, something along the lines of there's an Australian boy coming to stay with us. And I remember Mark and Cheryl always tell the story that they were kind of like, okay, like didn't know anything about me, and their daughter was just inviting this Australian 17-year-old into the house. And um, yeah, so I kind of just moved in, um, and
you
that was
you
that.
stayed moved in. So is there an age? I don't even. What's the age difference between? Is there an age difference between you and Lise?
Not about 8 months.
Oh,
She
so no,
yeah,
so no,
yeah.
so right. So it was just the typical BMX thing, right? Someone's in town, someone needs a place to stay. You know,
Hmm.
he's vetted. He's a main maker at the World Championships. He's cool.
Yeah, he should be all right.
He should be all right. So they let you in, and here you are, proposing to their daughter. I think was it last year?
Yeah, yep.
Pretty cool. And for
Well,
those who don't know, Elise Post races as well, silver medalist at Rio Olympics. And I'm actually listening. I actually have my Broski headphones plugged in.
nice, nice.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go. Well, when I walked in the gas station, I saw her face on the packaging of the, of the
Yep.
headphones. So I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So power couple over here. So let's fast forward a bit. So how many national titles are we did the world titles? How many national titles, wins, all that stuff? I forget the record. Or there was an insane percentage of amount of top three finishes for
Yeah,
for main event.
I think I ended with three pro titles and too many seconds pro in the
So
uh, and I'm currently I think second to Ellis on the wins list. I think I finished with 74 and 72 or something. He has 77.
okay.
And I think yeah, Gork, yeah, something like 50% of my mains made that I won.
Right. So that's an insane percentage. So like in baseball terms, I guess 300 is a great average. So you're making mains percentages above 80% easily, 90%, and then your wins percentage or podiums percentage is 50%.
Wins, I believe.
So wins percentage is 50%. So and then a lot of seconds. So that is insane average. Um, I'll ask you this: how was the stress? How was managing, right? Because you have a high standard, you have a
Hmm.
high expectation. How was and you're young, dude. You're young. I got to think there
Yeah.
were certain times you just like really felt by yourself. I'm just
Hmm.
guessing.
Yeah, for sure.
How did you manage? I mean that's a lot of emotional
Yeah,
management. Like to manage that at that level for so long. Like what was your coping mechanism? What was your thing? What was your I mean like yeah, how did you deal?
I think the thing, like my approach to racing was always, and training, it was almost, I hate to use the word, but it was almost like a bipolar kind of in that. I don't know if that's too harsh of a word, but I had like, there was almost like an alter ego that trained and raced, and then there was a different me that is probably sort of people are seeing a bit more now that I'm not racing as much, or not racing now. And so I guess for me it was always, I was very process driven, and
Mm-hmm.
every, but it was draining. I mean, every day, every race weekend, it was intense, and and I had all these things that I guess I ran on this belief that I had to sacrifice something and that becomes training, you know. I didn't really allow myself to ever just enjoy. Everything was a process. Everything was, I had to get in character, and I had all these little processes, you know, race week or training morning or training day that got me into character, I guess. And it was little things like, whether it was, you know, weaning off of caffeine for 5 days leading up to a race, and I'd be in a fetal position with a headache, and you know, just crazy obsessive things that I did that potentially shortened my career, but also made me successful. And so yeah, there were a lot of times that I felt lonely, but there were also times, you know, I think I had an ability to switch on and switch off
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty, a lot better than probably people realize, in that I was able to come home and quickly snap out of that person that made me successful, and just be this other, you know, fun, out there kind of, you know, normal person. But there was also an issue with that as well, because I, you know, everything I did was really intense. So there was no middle ground of anything I really did. So if it was switching off, it was switching off pretty hard, and we were
You're
going
way
out,
off.
yeah, having a good time, and switching way off. So I would say that I'm an extremist, um, and you know that was the kind of the way I went about things, and right or wrong, that it worked for me for many. But like you said, it's draining, and exhausting at times to live up to those processes week in, week out, day in, day out, and constantly, you know, trying to find escapes that allow you to escape as well. So it was yeah, it was pretty intense, I would say.
Yeah, I know. I don't know about extreme. I call you passionate, yes. But it's interesting because when I remember racing and all that whole bit, and I work with other athletes. But it's interesting that almost any and everything you can get not suspicious, superstitious. Excuse me. You can get superstitious in a about almost any and everything when it as it pertains to your you're talking about weaning off caffeine. I remember having these weird rituals like where if I was going to a big race, I wouldn't buy anything for myself
Yep,
before
yep,
the race.
yep.
Just weird stuff like that. And I don't know how my brain put that stuff together, but it was just kind of like, whether it was like some rule about sacrifice, or whether it was some rule about, or whether it was a superstition, but you just kind of get into these rituals and these
And
kind
I
of.
think, yeah,
Go ahead.
I, I think that's what it became for me. Is like, it was a rule of sacrifice, and it bugged the crap out of Elise, because she's the complete opposite, in that she happy-go-lucky, and you know, wants to be in just a good frame of mind, and definitely a lot more balanced perspective on things. But for me, it was always like sacrifice. I have to sacrifice something. If I want something, I have to sacrifice something. And I don't know if that was kind of, it was, I don't know, kind of instilled in me just because of the pathway that I had to take a little bit with, you know, and similar to what you were saying with yourself, you know, moving away, and you know, you live by yourself. You make all these sacrifices so that you know, you build that gets instilled in you a bit. Anything I want, I have to sacrifice for. Anything I need, something has to give, and that can get tiresome as well, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, it does. And then you kind of learn to free yourself up, and then you move forward, and then you create, and then you're in another cycle of rules and patterns, and then you free
Mhm.
yourself up, and then so it's pretty interesting how everyone kind of goes through that in their own way. So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, I don't. It's not the elephant in the room. Everyone knows, but for those who don't know, so you're not racing anymore, And so after you returned from Rio, but I caught something you said. You said it may be the reason that I'm not racing. So you got in an accident here in Chula Vista, in which you ended up, I don't even know what the term is. It's paralyzed, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and you actually have quite a bit of mobility now, because I saw you pedaling a trainer bike, exercise bike for layman terms. But
Yeah.
but how do you relate that to the accident? Because you said that may be a reason as to why, when you're talking about some of your processes and the way you were doing things.
Yeah, I think it was just that, once again, the not smelling the roses and just going for more and more and more.
Okay.
Came back from Rio, and that didn't end. It was disappointing. I mean, I went into Rio in what I felt was probably the best shape of my life, and won every lap up to the final, top qualifier, lane one, come up short on the first jump, and ended up fifth or sixth in the race. And that hit pretty hard, and was disappointing, obviously. And I guess from there, for me, I didn't. It was just next contest kind of thing, the same approach it had always been, and I tried to, I guess, erase that disappointment with the next race and the next training session and the next, and I was fried, mentally and physically. I was fried, and probably shouldn't have. I shouldn't have been training, basically.
Got it. Okay.
And it was just, I think at that point it was, probably 8 years of non-stop competitive racing, non-stop hard work, and it had all kind of come to a head at Rio when it didn't end the way that I wanted it to, and probably just needed to take some time, reset, and go again. And my approach was kind of just back on the horse. Next
Just another
contest.
day, right? Just another day.
Yeah. Win the next race, and that'll fix it.
And that is, and I have to say, it's really no one's fault. Like that's a common approach for many people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone has their different ways. Looking, hindsight's 20/20, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
cliche. So now life does a complete 180, 360, topsy-turvy. We go vertigo for a while. You're in a place you've never been.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but still the champ. So I'm seeing you on YouTube. I'm seeing you, on Facebook. And I know that wasn't part of your repertoire when you were racing so
No.
much. But it is now. And I think people, especially your fans, I mean, did you know how many people really wanted to see that side of you before all of this until now? I mean, I got to think you're surprised at the amount of love.
Yeah, I am, for sure. And I guess and that's part of not probably sitting back and smelling the roses, like I was saying. And I was just, I always tried to treat people with respect, and be as respectful as I could, and not ever disrespectful. But as far as, fans or anyone that wanted help or had wanted to talk or anything like that, but I had my blinders on in many ways, and was just kind of going about my business, and like I said, was, next process, next day, next race, next contest kind of thing. So I guess going through what I've been through is obviously a life-changing accident, and something that I never thought would happen to me, and no one does. And but I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and laying in a bed, and then I went to rehab in Colorado for 4 months, and and there was, dark times, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
but I also seen things that made me realize that that there's always someone worse off. There's always a worse situation, and from my injury, not to sound dramatic about it, but there's people that that aren't here today with the injury that I sustained. And
Yeah, yeah.
I went, I was on a helicopter with nothing. I couldn't wiggle a finger, and that, and to be able to, be here today, with the opportunity that I'm every day getting a little bit better, and but I'm able to function, I'm able to live life still, and it's not the life that you would choose, and it's not perfect, but it's life, and I guess I'm able to, going through what I've seen, it's just, I guess, a 180 flip on that. I'm thankful for the opportunities I had. I'm thankful for things that I got to achieve, and I'm thankful for moving forward in the unknown of what's ahead and what's achievable. And I guess I appreciate people more now. I appreciate the little things of having a laugh, and just being able to be myself, and do those things. So I think that's probably the side that people are seeing a bit more now. And I don't put restrictions on my life anymore, like I guess I went through doing, which in a way made me successful, I think, but also in a way, yeah, like I said, it just restricted me. So
Mm-hmm.
now I don't put those restrictions. I'm happy to put myself out there. I'm happy to, be on social media, embrace everything, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you said life's not perfect. I don't know that I don't know that it was when you were racing and winning all that. I mean, it might have been exciting. It might have been very
Yeah.
goal and target oriented, which is great.
I think it
Um,
was my perception of perfect, though.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And the fans always loved you, and you had the respect of your peers. It wasn't like you were a rider that people were like, "Ah, I can't stand when he wins." They might have been sick of you winning, but it wasn't like they hated that you won.
Yeah.
But I think maybe like just hearing you speak, I to me I think it's like maybe now you get, because it sounds like you're doing that. You're smelling the roses and enjoying not only all of who you are, but all of who you are with your friends and the public. I don't know. I think maybe this is this is a great time for you in that you get to stop and smell the roses and use that competitive whatever extreme to not only get back to good health or be an inspiration, but you get to stop and smell the roses and be a success at the same time versus like one or the other. That's
Yeah.
just kind of where I what I was picking up, which I thought was like, I don't know. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. So, little bit, because I want people to. They got a lot out of it already, I'm sure, but I want the future competitors out there, the entrepreneur, the young high school athlete, anybody who's going for it. I want them to get some good stuff from you because I think you're a lot wiser beyond your years. And I know a rider or two that work with you because I know you work with a couple of riders from a training perspective.
Hmm.
Um, and so just the little tidbits I hear, I'm like, oh wow, he's a smart dude. So so it's kind of the what do you see? You get a new section on the gold medal mindset, right? So I've never done this before. This is the Sam Willoughby inspired segment of the Gold Medal Mindset podcast, which is what do you see? So, and when I say that is what do you see in other people? Because you watch a lot of racing. I know you're a fan of NASCAR. I know you watch motocross. You watch sports. Um, but can you tell when someone has it? Can you tell when they've lost it? Can they tell when they actually are getting it? Like, what can you see that? Who's
I feel,
Go ahead, just
yeah,
go.
I feel especially these days with social media, and now that I look at it a bit more, I would say
Mm-hmm.
it's it's almost, and I think especially in our sport, BMX, in that you know everyone so well because you've been around them so often, and
Mm-hmm.
but it's amazed me in the last 6 months that I look at it and I follow the racing still, and it's like you can almost read what's going to happen at a race if someone's quiet, if someone's outspoken, and it's almost the opposite at times. Like, for example, Connor, who's gold medalist right now, and looking pretty good at the moment. It's almost like a quiet Connor is like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I think he's dangerous right now because he's quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and and he's can um just going about his business, and I feel like that's a more dangerous him. So I feel like you can kind of read people, and I've been an athlete, so you feel when people are saying certain things, like whether it's an insecurity or it's a trying to build themselves up, or whatever it is. So yeah, I feel like at times you can. I'm obviously wrong at times as well, but yeah, you can read people a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, just from a general sense, I know this is a hard one to answer, and I guess we'll just converse about it. But can you tell when someone has it, right? Like you look at that kid or that person, whatever sport it is or whatever discipline it is, and it's like that person is boom, right? Like it was clear when you moved here and you were racing internationally at 16 or 17, it was clear like you had it, right? Maris Stromberg's coach was like, no, he's not living with you because you're going to be racing against him for the title,
Yeah.
So it was clear, like they could look at you and say, he's got it. So what is it when you say when a person says that, or when you say that? What is it you're seeing? What is that kind of? Can we explain that unexplained thing?
Yeah, I think if you had to put one thing on it, I think it's if you, at a young age, or I don't know, that's a it's a tough question to ask on the spot, but I think you can. I think if there's one trait that all successful people have, I'm just such a big believer in being process driven, and I think if you ask a question to any successful person, a simple question of how are you going to do that, how are you going to win that, how are you going to make this successful, just the way that they answer that question, if they have the I's dotted and their T's crossed, and that they can answer that question with an actual philosophy or an actual you know something. You can tell if someone believes in kind of what they're doing, or they have a theory behind what they're doing, and when you ask that question. And so I think anyone that's process driven would be how I would read if someone's going to be successful or not. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So who do you follow in other sports that they got it? They just got it.
Like you said, I'm a NASCAR fan, but I'm a big fan of Jimmy Johnson, and I think that just the way in that particular sport, he's super successful. He's 7-time champion, up there with the most wins ever, and one of the best ever. But I think what he has is that he has that process driven mindset, and he's successful week in, week out. But he also, if you follow him in his life, he has a balance between the Jimmy Johnson that races on the weekend, is super competitive, says what he thinks, races hard, but it's always the same. The way he races is the same week in, week out. He has a theory and a philosophy on how he's going to win the race, and that's what, and he sticks to that plan. It doesn't always work, but he's got enough evidence behind him to say that's his philosophy on how he races. But then away from the track, he has many escape mechanisms, I would say, that look healthy. And for him, it's fitness, it's cycling, it's family, and so I guess I appreciate his balance in the way he goes about it.
Nice. Very well said. All right. So I'm going to ask you one question I ask most everybody, and that is, what's one thing you wish every human being on Earth knew?
One thing that
one thing you wish every human knew, right? You're born, you live a life. What's one thing you would want that person to know? If they only knew this, then...
Oh,
I know. We go deep on the gold medal mindset.
You do. One thing. Laughter.
The dog to shut the door when you're doing a podcast. No.
I guess if there's one thing, I don't know, laughter. If everyone can laugh, that brings happiness.
Ah, I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
Cool. Laughter. All right. I'll take that. I would agree with that. I remember there was times when I was training, and I was I don't know if you remember, and he's a French guy. He was a French national champ. Thierry Fuyel was his name.
Okay.
But we had this. He had this thing. He was kind of a goofy guy, but he was really strong and fast. Obviously, he was a French chap. But he would we'd be in the gym doing squats or whatever, going heavy, and he would smile. I'm like, what? Yeah. He's like, smile. I'm like, dude, it's like 500 pounds on my back. I'm not gonna just get under the rack and smile. This is but I. So every now and then, so I didn't do it when I was around him, but I actually played with it a bit after he left. But it's true. It does kind of shift the perspective and challenges your own rule set. So and then I went on to actually learn how some of those physiological changes actually can affect you, neurologically and affect your mindset, thinking, and all that other stuff moving forward. Yep. But it was just funny that he would say, smile. You should smile when you squat. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to smile. This is drama.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful, smiling.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah. Interesting story. Speaking of smiling and laughter, so at Rio, at the end of the games, I was at the USA House or whatever that. Well, you were there with the league. And I don't know what it was. Maybe you had a little extra to drink that night.
I don't remember that.
But you kept bothering me. Do you remember?
I don't specifically remember bothering you.
Well, you were physical. You're a physical kind of dude, right? So you just kept pushing me and grabbing my biceps, and then we started tussling. Yep. And okay, yep. All right, I'll go there. And I usually don't do that, but I was like, all right, I'm just I'm still a 42-year-old man. I still got some man strength in me, right? So then we start tussling, right? Monkeying around at this party with a bunch of famous people. And then out of nowhere, right? And I actually had you in a little, you weren't compromised, but I was feeling like I was, just crossing the bridge. All right, I'm about to get this dude. And then somebody swoops in and then just grabs my legs and lifts me up. And it's your brother. Lifts me off the ground. And he's strong as I don't know what. I thought you were strong, but he's strong. So, anyways, I thought, it's one, not fair. Not fair. He picked the fight with me. And then two, your brother. But what I thought was, the second piece of it, what I thought was how cool that your brother was just gonna help out my brother. So, so he came to your defense with a quickness. It was Batman or something. That was pretty cool, I thought. But let him know that was unfair.
Yeah, I will. He, well, he's obviously my best friend, my brother. We were super close. And, that's probably, if anything's good to come of this injury, is that we got to spend about 3 months together, which is the most we've spent in about 10 years. So he came over here to the US with his new son and helped me with all my rehab and stuff, which was great. But yeah, Matt's he's always had my back. We always used to joke in footy growing up that I would start the fights and Matt would finish them. And
yeah, well, that's true.
But he's he'll just run into any situation and throw himself in there for his friends. But
I appreciated that.
Obviously, this wasn't a serious situation. But
no, but it was still cool. It was just right, those patterns. That's what he's doing. Yeah. So obviously we were having fun, but he still wanted to join in the fun and finish it for you. So that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Well, hey man, we are at the end. We went a bit long. I'm sure we could probably talk BMX specifically for another 2 or 3 hours, but we'll probably do that on Dale Holmes' podcast again.
Yep.
The High Low podcast show. But is there anything, anyone, any stuff, any ways people can find you, support you, anything you want to get off your chest now? How can people find you? What can they do to support your cause or just help themselves move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram now, use it quite regularly, just swilloughby91_, I think. So It's a bit of a funky name. I didn't have one for a while, and my name got stolen. So that's where I'm at. Also doing a little, I guess you could call it video podcast kind of thing on Monday nights on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel called Cafe Willoughby. As far as supporting me, I mean, the support when I got injured last year was amazing, and I have so much support, I guess, and any kind words is always appreciated. And yeah, I'm continuing to work away and just doing my thing. So happy to chat to anyone and reach out on social media. And yeah, I guess I don't need to ask for too much. Everyone's been amazing. So
Yeah, it's been great, and that's Road to Recovery. And I'll put a lot of that stuff in the show notes and when I do all my postings. But it's S Willoughby, WILLOUGHBY 91 _ on the gram, and then you can catch Sam Willoughby and his shenanigans on Cafe Willoughby on YouTube, and you'll be going on, what is that, Mondays at 6?
Yeah, Monday 6 o'clock.
Monday 6 o'clock California time. Yeah. I don't know what that is. GMT -8. I don't know what that is, but it's Pacific Coast time in California in the U.S. And yeah, well, cool, man. I appreciate you being on the show. I'm sure we'll see each other at a BMX event or sooner. Yeah, man. Or maybe have Elise on after see how the world goes.
You do, yeah. She hopefully will have a good one there. She's in full flight right now at the track, so she's in preparations and should be good.
All right. Well, all right, Sam, I appreciate you being on the show. You've been a great guest. Until next time, Gold Medal Mindset family. Talk soon.
Thanks for taking the time to mine for gold on the Gold Medal Mindset podcast. Let's keep the conversation going on Twitter at RealDrJRich or on the web at drjasonrichardson.com. That's drjasonrichardson.com. Take care and have a great day.